This is the real reason why Noraly Schoenmaker, the woman behind Itchy Boots, has switched motorcycles 7 times in 8 years, and it's not what most of her 3 million subscribers think. You've probably followed Noraly's journey across more than 70 countries and 190,000 kilometers, and at some point you've wondered why someone who preaches simplicity and reliability keeps changing bikes. Maybe she's chasing sponsorships or testing new models for manufacturers, or hunting for the perfect motorcycle that doesn't exist. The answer turns out to be far more practical and far more interesting, revealing something most motorcycle travel YouTubers never talk about, which is the hidden costs and brutal logistics of riding around the world alone. What actually happened is where we need to start. 8 motorcycles have passed through Noraly's hands during her riding life, though most fans only know about 6 of them, and the full list tells a different story. Before she ever started her YouTube channel, a second-hand Ducati Monster 796 sat in her garage in the Netherlands. She bought it in 2015 when she got her motorcycle license and rode it for hours alone around the country, then sold it in 2018 when she quit her job as an international dredging contractor and sold everything to travel. Her own website puts it this way: "With pain in my heart, I had to say goodbye to her." Most people assume her journey started with Basanti, the white Royal Enfield Himalayan she named after a Bollywood heroine, but that's not quite right. A rental came first. Late 2018 in Manali, India, she rented a white Royal Enfield Himalayan and rode it 3,000 kilometers solo through the Himalayas, and that trip converted her from backpacker to motorcycle traveler. Basanti came next, bought brand new in Delhi in November 2018, and she launched her YouTube channel on November 21st of that year with that bike strapped to the camera. Basanti carried her 36,000 kilometers across 25 countries in 8 months. Starting in India and threading through Myanmar, Thailand, Malaysia, Oman, Iran, Central Asia, Russia, the Caucasus, the Balkans, and finally arriving in the Netherlands. Dano came after Basanti, another Royal Enfield Himalayan, but this one with Dutch license plates. Ronin followed, a used Honda CB500X. Then Savannah, a used Honda CRF300 Then Alaska, a Honda CRF300 Rally. And now Frankie, a 1987 Yamaha Ténéré that was completely rebuilt in Germany. 7 different bikes for long-distance travel, 8 if you count the Ducati, plus the original rental that started it all. Which raises the obvious question of why someone who values reliability and simplicity above everything else would keep switching motorcycles. What Noraly doesn't emphasize in her videos but states clearly on her website is that Basanti couldn't stay with her, and the reason comes down to paperwork. Riding from India to the Netherlands taught her that Basanti, being manufactured in India, did not meet European safety and technical requirements, which meant the bike could not be registered in the Netherlands at all. This wasn't a choice but law, pure and simple. Trading Basanti back to the Royal Enfield Netherlands distributor in exchange for Dano, a Dutch spec Himalayan with proper Dutch license plates, became the only option. Same bike, different paperwork. This is the first hidden reason. And it's massive because casual viewers assume she abandoned a perfectly good bike after one season when the reality is she had no legal option to keep it. Savannah ran into the same problem. The Honda CRF250L she bought secondhand in Johannesburg in early 2021. Riding through South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe ended when she broke the subframe during the Kalahari Rally. But even if she'd wanted to repair it, her website mentions ownership issues that prevented her from exporting the bike in her name. Donating it to the Motorcycle Museum in Knysna, South Africa became the solution, and that's where it sits on display today. Registration law and cross-border paperwork have killed at least 2 of her bikes, maybe 3. And this is something almost no motorcycle travel vlogger talks about because it ruins the romantic idea of one bike, one journey around the world. The truth is messier, and some bikes simply cannot cross certain borders in your name. Dano's story is where things get worse. Early 2020 saw Noraly ship Dano to Buenos Aires, Argentina with plans to ride from Patagonia all the way to Alaska, but April 2020 brought COVID-19 shutting down borders across South America. Lima, Peru became her prison, and she flew home to the Netherlands while Dano stayed stranded. 8 months passed before that motorcycle escaped Peru, and when the shipping container finally arrived in Rotterdam, Noraly unpacked the bike at the port. Her website describes what she found. When I unpacked her at the port in Rotterdam, it soon became clear that this bike wasn't going anywhere anymore. Shipping destroyed Dano, not riding. The bike had barely escaped Peruvian customs confiscation, survived a pandemic lockdown, crossed an ocean in a container, and arrived so badly damaged that Noraly could no longer ride it, which makes this the second hidden reason. Dano's retirement wasn't voluntary because the shipping company effectively ended that bike's life. And here's what people don't realize about intercontinental motorcycle shipping. Bikes get thrown around in containers, damaged by saltwater, by rough handling, by theft of parts. Noraly doesn't dwell on this in her videos because it's not exciting content, but it's a real cost of going around the world. Dano never rode again. This is where it gets really interesting because Noraly Shonemaker, with 3.3 million YouTube subscribers and 773 million total views, does not have a motorcycle manufacturer sponsor. Honda has never given her a free bike, despite the obvious commercial benefit they got from her riding a CRF300 Rally 43,000 kilometers from Ecuador to Alaska and then across Africa. Royal Enfield gave her a swap deal for Dano, which is the closest she's ever come to manufacturer support. But that was a trade, and not a gift. The reason comes from paraphrased reports from her Q&A sessions and live streams where Noraly has said she doesn't want a master telling her what to say and where to go. Editorial control matters to her, which means writing what she wants, when she wants, and saying what she thinks about it. Proof exists in an unusual place. Outback Motortech, the company that makes crash bars and protection gear, published a statement on their own blog saying that Noraly emailed them to purchase their crash bars for the CRF300 Rally. She didn't ask for free gear, but paid for it. A creator with millions of subscribers who could easily get free parts from a dozen companies chose to pay, and that philosophy has a consequence. Every bike replacement comes out of her own pocket, and YouTube ad revenue estimates from Hype Auditor put her earnings somewhere between $13,800 and $18,900 per month as of April 2026. That's good money, but not infinite money. When a bike needs replacing, she can't just call a manufacturer and ask for the latest flagship model, but has to buy something herself. Ronin was a used CB500X for that reason. Savannah was a used CRF250L, which she explicitly described as the most affordable second-hand bike I could find. Frankie is a 38-year-old Yamaha that had to be completely rebuilt. She's not switching bikes for sponsorship deals, but switching bikes because she refuses sponsorship deals. Terrain changes with every season for Noraly, and she matches her bike to the mission. Ronin, the Honda CB500X, was perfect for Iceland, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, where paved roads, long distances, cold weather, and wind made a twin-cylinder road bike the sensible choice. Relocating to South Africa in early 2021 demanded something completely different because Southern Africa meant sand, rocks, dirt, altitude, and heat. Ronin was too heavy for solo off-road riding, and she said so explicitly in her blog post titled, "New Bike of Choice for Season 6. Savannah came next, a light single-cylinder dual sport, and when Savannah's subframe broke, Alaska replaced it as the CRF300 Rally, which was essentially an upgraded version of the same formula with small capacity, lightweight, single-cylinder off-road capability. Season 8 wanted something different again, and her blog explains why. My CRF300 Rally got enough beatings, so I retired this bike. I started looking for a new bike, but struggled to find a bike that wasn't so heavy. Most new adventure bikes are so incredibly heavy nowadays. Modern adventure bikes have gotten massive, with the KTM 790 Adventure, the BMW GS series, and even the new Yamaha Ténéré 700 all coming in as tall, heavy, complex machines. Noraly is short, weighs around 135 pounds, and rides alone in remote places, which means picking up a 500-pound bike by herself in the middle of nowhere isn't romantic but dangerous. Going vintage became the solution with a 1987 Yamaha Ténéré XT600Z, completely rebuilt by a mechanic named Moritz in Germany. Light, simple, mechanical, with no complex electronics to fail in the desert. And here's the personal detail she mentioned, that the 1987 Ténéré is the same year as her own birth, which she calls her twin. Noraly isn't chasing the latest technology, but chasing the right tool for the job. May 2024 near Mbeya, Tanzania brought Noraly hitting a rut on a paved road and going down, breaking her collarbone and a toe. Her Garmin InReach satellite messenger called for help, leading to an airlift to a hospital and eventually a flight back to the Netherlands for surgery. Complications followed when her lung collapsed. 2 years later, in 2026, she posted on Facebook, Since my accident in Tanzania 2 years ago, I never really recovered from the collapsed lung that was the result of the collarbone surgery. Alaska, the CRF300 Rally, had ridden 43,000 kilometers by that point, taking her from Ecuador to the Arctic Ocean in Alaska, then across Morocco, West Africa, and East Africa. Noraly wrote, "My CRF300 Rally got enough beatings, so I retired this bike." This is the reality of solo motorcycle travel that doesn't make it into the highlight reels, where bikes break and bodies break, and sometimes both at the same time. Noraly retired Alaska not because it catastrophically failed, but because it had done its job, absorbed its share of crashes and beatings, and she had absorbed hers, which combines the fourth and fifth hidden reasons of cumulative mechanical damage plus her own injury timeout. 7 motorcycle switches happen not because she's chasing sponsors, testing new models, or looking for the perfect bike, but because of international registration law, shipping damage, a deliberate refusal of factory sponsorship, geography-driven mission requirements, and crashes that retired both bikes and rider. These are the costs of going around the world alone, and most travel vloggers don't talk about them because they're boring, bureaucratic, expensive, and unsexy. Noraly has been remarkably transparent about all of this, putting it on her website, in her blog posts, and in her 2025 memoir, Free Ride, which became an instant New York Times bestseller and revealed for the first time that her entire journey started after discovering her live-in partner had been having an affair. July 2018 brought her quitting her job, selling her house, selling her Ducati, and booking a one-way ticket to India, with the plan being a travel blogger and not a rider. Manali changed everything when she rented a Royal Enfield for a few weeks, rode 3,000 kilometers through the Himalayas, and fell in love with the bike. Buying Basanti came next, launching a YouTube channel on November 21, 2018, and starting to ride. 8 years later brings her to 3.3 million subscribers, 190,000 kilometers across more than 70 countries, and 7 motorcycles, currently riding Frankie, the 1987 Yamaha Ténéré, eastward from Istanbul with the stated goal of reaching Japan. The real reason Noraly keeps switching motorcycles isn't a secret conspiracy or a hidden sponsorship deal, but the reality of doing something almost no one else does. Traveling the world alone on a motorcycle without a support team, without factory backing, filming and editing every episode herself, and refusing to let any company control her editorial freedom creates these problems. Every bike switch has been forced by logistics, law, damage, geography, or physics, and not preference, which in a weird way is more impressive than riding one bike around the world. What it means is she's solving real problems in real time, paying for it out of her own pocket, and never pretending the journey is easier than it actually is. That's the real story of Itchy Boots. And that's what she never tells you because she's too busy actually doing it.